Hi everybody, it's Lori Burris and I'm here with the Catch a Pocket Podcast. Tonight's guest is going to be Mr. Michael Lacey. I think I'm going to have him on 2 episodes, this one and one in 2 weeks. He has stories about being in bands such as Psycho Love Tribe, Diesel Crutch, and Darkhaven. To start out with, he'll talk a little bit about himself and tell some stories, and I find all these stories very interesting. I hope you do too. And at the end, I'm gonna have one of his songs called "And Stuff So," and that is from the Psycho Love Tribe, and you can kind of get a taste of what he was offering when he was on the scene here in Wichita as a heavy metal, speed metal, I don't know, lots of different things, funk. They pretty much an alternative to stereotypical rock, heavier than rock, heavy rock. Anyway, Michael and I met when we worked together at the Blockbuster Music out west on West Kellogg, when there was one, and he was just a wonderful person to work with and made the job fun. And when Shane Marler and I were talking on episode 3, and it reminded me of him, and I reached out to him to see if maybe he might want to be on the podcast, and after a little contemplation, he decided to come on. So, without further ado, Mr. Michael Lacey.
No one wants to hear this shit. And I was like, I don't have anything to talk about.
Who cares, right?
Well, no, it was actually, there's really more purpose behind this, is then I listened to Shane's.
Yeah, Shane's awesome.
And, I didn't even remember Shane.
Right, and you don't know each other or anything like that.
But then it started, I was like, I remember that night that he was talking about. And I don't remember anything
remember it a whole nother way.
Right. And I don't remember anything being eventful about it whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I didn't even feel like the band that I was playing or anything was that great. Right. But it affected him.
Right.
So much that I was like, it made me
feel
so
voice,
good.
Yeah.
That I was like, I can't, because it made me feel like, this wasn't all just for nothing.
Right.
A lot of times, like, no one cares. When people ask about, we should do a reunion or something. I'm like, no one wants to hear that shit, dude. That's right. It's long gone.
And there's something about it when it all comes together that maybe is something else, like this synergistic or this pull or this otherworldly kind of feeling or whatever.
It was just, more importantly to me, it was like, there's been so many people that affected me.
That same way.
And that's what I was like, if I was to do this podcast thing, is like, that's exactly where I'd want to go with it.
And let that person hear it, and then let them see
There's so
the
many people
effect they have on someone else.
That may feel like I did. Like
right.
What I was doing was insignificant or that it didn't matter. And to hear this guy, Shane, who I respect.
Upped his game,
Totally, and I respected him. He's done more than I've done in music, up to that point. And it's like, wow.
But not then, not then. He chose to...
Like,
he can't live without his guitar. And it's great. Do you still play the guitar?
Oh, God, all the time.
Yeah, awesome.
No, it's unreal. I play probably more, since I've had the kids, I probably play more than ever, because when they were little bitty, somebody had to stay up with them all night long. So I was just playing guitar all the time.
Acoustic or electric?
I still play everything. I've got, I'm a guitar freak, so it's like every other day I'm buying some new guitar. All the kids growing up, they had to deal with a Telecaster with a Jazzmaster neck on it that I played, that now I feel like I have to sell. But that's the thing, I just rotate through guitars. And in reality, it dawned on me on the way here, it's like, if we're going to be talking about, I still have the one guitar that I played in every band.
Really?
Yep, still have it to this day. And you can see every
Nick and
every rock and roll scar. Oh, it's beat to death.
That's cool though. Those are the best guitars I think.
And it's like, I thought about getting rid of it. It's actually, I saw one like it was for sale in Norway. Mine was signed by Steve Vai. It's a Steve Vai guitar.
Oh, cool.
Signed by Steve Vai.
Yeah.
Personally.
So, yeah. So he's like a great hero to you.
In a way.
Yeah.
In a way, but it's the guitar itself is now they just surpassed. It's the most popular guitar ever sold. 35th anniversary. These things are worth like $4,000.
Awesome.
And I'm like, man, I'm gonna sell mine. Then I found one just like mine. It was in Norway.
Yeah.
And it was for sale on eBay, $3,500.
Whoa.
And it wasn't signed. And
it wasn't?
Man.
And yours is signed?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And I thought, no, Michael, don't sell it.
It'll hurt your feelings later.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it got me kind of motivated. It's like, I'm going to get it. Like, I'm getting new frets put on it, get it fixed up.
Tuned up. Yeah. Are you from Wichita?
Yeah,
or did you come from?
I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but I've been in Wichita since I was 4 years old.
Okay,
but that's kind of an interesting story in itself because my dad was a professional musician and we were on the road, so we had to settle down somewhere, and this ended up being it.
Because it was middle of the nation kind of thing, or you don't know why?
I still
have no idea.
Want to strangle my parents.
Because at least you could be in California or something.
Well, that's the funny thing is when I was growing up, see, this is probably something we could be talking about, but
we are.
Are you serious? Are you totally like
talking about it right now?
Oh my God!
Holy cow!
This is so much for the introduction and junk.
Yeah,
it's your show, awesome. Man. It's your show. So anyway, traveling musician.
Your dad.
Yeah, his whole life.
Okay.
And jazz.
Like what he play?
He was a jazz player, saxophone player, played every instrument. Played with some heavyweights too, I mean, like, but we were on the road, me and my sister, who was a year older than I was, and we traveled all over the country, and we ended up in Wichita, Kansas. Why, I don't know. But my dad used to drive me crazy because he would say, when I was younger, I'd be like, ooh, I want to go there. He goes, you have been there. And my mom would go, he was 3 years old, And it was like, so my dad's always going around, you were there. You've been there. And I'm like, then why? Why in the hell did we end up here? No, I was just always like, why Wichita? And for the longest time, I had like a lot of resentment, like, not resentment, like, so to speak, but
Wichita,
just like,
down on Wichita kind of stuff. This is boring.
Wichita, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I outgrew that eventually. I love Wichita much more now than I ever did, which is
me
pretty
too.
strange.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and it was really funny because I was in Siesta Key, Florida, vacationing, and I saw these surf kids just standing on the corner, and I was I'm riding my bike in Siesta Key and like, man, just having a great time and grabbing another beer, going back down to the beach, and these kids are like, man, there's nothing to do here. And they're just like, man, it's so boring.
It's awful.
I hate this place. And I was just like, you little
You don't
punks.
know how lucky you have it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then it just kind of comes across as that same thing. It doesn't matter where you're from. You
hate
you're
it
going to think
the
grass is always greener somewhere else.
Sure is. Yeah.
So, yeah, that was always kind of a bone of contention. Is like, how in the hell can you sit there and tell me we traveled all these places? And we did,
Right.
And it's weird to think about that as a family dynamic, in a hotel room, I don't remember, of course.
You don't remember.
No.
And then when you settled down, he bought a house here or something?
Yeah, basically he got offered a job at KWCH TV. Back then it was KTVH, Channel 12 as a salesman.
Awesome. So he sold ads?
Yeah, he was an ad salesman, exactly. And eventually became station manager.
Did he do music still in town?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So he played with, like, other bands that would...
He had a little duo, and they were just two guys, the other guy was a keyboard player, singer, and he was a sax player, and they played all the time. All the time.
Just went and played clubs
little
such.
supper clubs and crap like that.
The Candle and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he did that up until, the end almost, basically.
Wow, and how long did he live?
He died about 10 years ago, so, and I think he was, gosh, I should know these things a bit better, but some of that stuff you just block out deliberately. It's like, he was in his early 80s, but yeah.
And he played up until pretty much then.
Played up until the time he just really, he suffered from emphysema and stuff like that late in his life, so I mean, that kind of took away, some of that capability, but it was like the first time he ever came to me and said, hey, I want to play guitar. And I was like, you're 80 years old,
He did? He did that?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I mean, he still had to express himself.
So you guys got along
musically.
really well then?
No. Okay. I wish I could say that when I think about early influences in my life as far as music was concerned, I would like to be able to say it was my dad.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I wasn't into what he was into musically.
Okay.
So
you didn't have that common bond or something like that?
No, as a matter of fact, it was almost contentious in a way because everything that I liked.
Hard rock, right? Like really pretty hard rock compared to jazz.
It was, yeah, and it was just like, you don't know what you're doing. You know, this is a man who bought me my first guitar,
right?
You know, but at the same time, he didn't like where I was going with it, you know, and it was like, you don't know how to play, you don't know what you're doing. You know, he was a little bit more of a trained musician.
Right. And you weren't using the right form and
he wasn't doing it.
Shit and you're like that.
And it was like, you don't know. You know, the guys that he listened to, jazz guys and stuff, you know, those guys.
They knew
They were the deal, man.
Right.
You don't know what music is.
Right.
That's what it was.
You can't work your way out of this punch. You know, you can't work your way out of a paper sack.
Exactly. You know, and it's funny because as an artist, and I mean, that's when I was in school. That was all I was. I mean, I was an art student. That's all I cared about.
Right.
And I mean, painting and drawing and stuff that was my expression. You know, I didn't need music really to.
You could sit with a piece of paper.
I was musical, but you know, that wasn't my main outlet for expression.
Right.
And somewhere in high school or something, you know, I think it was more about wanting his acceptance, is that I started playing and finding that he wasn't accepting it so much.
Even then.
But here I had found a new way of letting out my expression, right? So
plus the chicks like it.
Well, even in high school, you know, in high school, I didn't quite get that kind of attention either, because in reality, it was like it was just making noise, you know. And funny enough, John Ray, who owns E.M. Short's music, was really the only other musician that I knew. He was in high school. We went to high school together.
Okay.
And
I love E.M. Shorts.
And John was great, you know, and we were about he was about the only other person I had a musical connection with in high school, and that was pretty small.
Right.
You know, so, but he could play Iron Maiden on the bass.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Iron Maiden's cool.
Oh, man.
I really like
especially on the bass, man. You know, it's like,
it's tough stuff.
Freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
So he was, you know, but other than that, you know, like a few encounters with John, you know, and other than that, I was just, you know, playing in my room. For fun, you know. It wasn't
whatever's on the radio,
there wasn't anything, you know.
Right.
Well, you know, and I still listened to things. I was like, oh man, I want to be able to play that, or
like Iron Maiden and that stuff.
It just wasn't. And now, back then, it was different. You know, I mean, when I think about how I play guitar, you know, I always think of my influences as like Jimmy Page and Hendrix.
Right.
And then later on in life, you know, there was the Eddie Van Halens who, you know, changed the way you play guitar, and I was really into that whole shredder thing, you know. And Yngwie Malmsteen, and you know, these dudes were just like, oh my gosh, they're technically crazy. But my playing really came more from people like Peter Frampton, and George Benson, and Neil Schon from Journey. I mean, and that was really because when
at that time,
when I listened to Hendrix or even Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen, I never wanted to play like them. Right. I was just like, whoa.
In awe of them.
Yeah. You know, want to take the guitar and throw it out the friggin' window. You know,
like,
it's like, what's the
that.
point? You know, this guy's
I'm never going to be able to
amazing,
do that.
You know? Yeah. And so it was inspirational, but at the same time, it wasn't what I wanted to play. It was
also humbling, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't. I never tried to be them,
right,
so to speak. So I was never sitting around going, oh, I got to learn this deal, you know, or something.
Yeah, like playing the same progression over and over again.
I didn't see the point in doing that. You know, it's like Hendrix, I'm never going to be able to do it like that. So why do it? You know, I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of.
This is fun.
Exactly. So, I mean, so it was never very serious in that regard, you know, and then it started dawning on me that after high school, it was kind of the point that all my friends had gone away to college. I was left I didn't have enough money to go to college at that point, and my sister had taken up all the family's money with her great grades. Yeah. Yeah. So
where you get the money and you don't go at all and you party the whole time.
Well, she had
those kinds of grades.
She was so good in school.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
So you didn't.
She was amazing in school. So they were like, you know, whatever wasn't paid for in a scholarship, they invested in her. Yeah. I wasn't so great in school. So I was really good in art class.
Invest in those
it's like, you're gonna have to
technical classes or something.
They're basically just like, you know, until we see that you're serious about going to school, you can pay your own way.
Yeah.
Which was really difficult. But at that point, you know, I realized I didn't have anything. You know, I mean, I didn't have friends anymore. You know, you didn't have the high school thing anymore, and you know that it was always about acceptance. And I mean, I've realized throughout my life a lot of things that I've done or have motivated me was been about acceptance. Right. You know, it's like you want people to like you.
You do.
You know. Yeah. And I obviously have some issues with that to some extent. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone does, though. You know, they go out of their way for certain things when they shouldn't.
Sure. And you know, and realizing it's kind of the hard thing sometimes. But that was kind of a motivation was that I wanted my dad's attention, you know, and at that point I realized it's not going to be through his music or anything, but it was more out of spite. It's like, I'm going to get in a band. I'm going to get big. I'm going to pay all my money up on my head, come up out of the dirt and go, hey, wait, check it out.
Yeah.
You know, if I can't, you know, if he can't.
All you haters.
Yeah, exactly. You know, which is just a weird.
It's a spiteful thing, but people do it, you know. It's the way life is. It's life.
And so I never, and that's what, you know, I started playing, and funny enough, I mean, it was like I didn't know how to go about being in a band. I had no musical connections.
Right.
I didn't know anybody, you know. So I just played.
Yeah.
14 hours a day. You know,
at home?
At home.
Okay.
In my room, by myself.
Man,
no friends,
the story goes
no money,
again.
And just
right.
played and played and played and played. And then eventually, I had met this kid, Zach Nicholson, who ended up being the bass player in like the first band that I was in.
What was it called?
The first band that I was actually in was this weird garage band called Dark Haven. And I'll tell you about that. But that evolved into a bunch of other things. And the first band that I can say that we literally played and actually made money was with Zach Nicholson, Ian Ottaway. And,
I know him.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about Ian as well. This is not going without Ian getting mentioned.
Oh, thank you. This is awesome.
Oh, you're going to love that. Ian Ottaway and Mike Santiago was in that band eventually as well, and he does, you know, he deserves it. He was much more in that band than Ian Ottaway was. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So, and Chad Stubbs, Bad Chad Stubbs, and these were like my first bandmates. But
yeah.
I was playing, and eventually it's like the point I gotta get out.
Yeah.
I gotta play somewhere. And
I'm ready.
I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And then, you know, I can say honestly, locally, there's two musical influences in my life that I can say are that have more bearing on me than anything.
Right.
And that's Ian Ottaway.
Okay.
And I'll explain that. But Vinnie Morning.
Vinnie Morning, really?
Are you familiar with Vinnie Morning?
I do, but I mean, not like, I don't think he would know me.
No, Vince is, you know, he's been playing in this town forever and ever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a rock legend in this town, so
Yeah.
to speak. But
That's
me,
how I know him,
yeah,
as the legend, not the person, really.
I didn't, you know, I still had no idea how, because, you know, to me, people that are in bands are from L.A. And, you know, and
Right.
that's, you know, was my exposure.
Right.
Well, here I'm at the Rock Island Club on South Oliver, and guess who's playing? Vinnie Morning with the band Roxit. And
wow.
we're talking circa 1987.
Holy cow, man. That's
and Vinnie
great.
was awesome, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was the first time that I ever saw a band and went, that
Whoa.
guy's from Wichita, and he's kicking ass.
Like, he's the most kick-ass person on the stage right now.
Exactly. And I was like, and he's from here.
Right
this
here.
band is from here. And, you know, I talked to him, and he was like a dude.
A regular
like,
person.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and this was huge. And, I mean, and to me, it was like,
Inspirational.
yeah, dude. So Vinny became, I was like, you know, I wanted to be, you know, mentored.
How do
you know?
I?
Yeah. I wanted to be and it never evolved that way. Me and Vinny
Right.
became great friends and stuff. And we
Yeah.
even shared a guitar at one point. His guitar would be in the pawn shop, or my guitar would be in the pawn
Oh,
shop. So we
really?
just had a guitar.
Like,
we'd
I have a
pass
gig
back
tonight,
and forth.
can I?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to need this tonight.
Yeah, exactly. But that was such a huge, I mean, I blame Vinnie Morning for starting everything. For starting the downward spiral that was Michael Lacey's music career.
Oh,
anyway.
come on.
So
No way.
no, but that's
It was
true.
good times.
It
Yeah,
was.
good
Oh
times.
man, you couldn't trade those times for nothing.
Nothing.
But Vinny was huge in that respect, because that was, and to this day, still great friends with the guy, and I still think he's, you know, probably one of the most all-around musicians, you know, around. I still enjoy listening to play, and now he plays with a absolutely brilliant bass player named Andy Koss, who I'm not familiar if you're familiar with Andy.
What band is that?
They have their little gig, Sleepy Truckers is what they
okay.
do. And, you know, it never was my kind of music. You
Right.
know, I never aspired, again, to
No, you
to
were
be
into, like, when I met you, you were into Korn. Big time. Like, Korn, everything.
Yeah, there was a big joke. And, you know, the very first time I heard Korn was at Blockbuster Music when they sent a demo.
Right.
The
I
record
think
label.
I was there the day you listened to it, and you were Korn crazy.
Friggin', I've never
Like,
heard
listen to
anything
this.
like this band ever in my life.
We cleaned that whole
you
shop
know?
to that album, and it was
Oh,
good.
yeah,
It was fun.
yeah. And then I was in a band at the time. I took it straight to my bandmates and went,
Can we do
wait
this?
till you hear
Something
this.
like this?
Wait till you hear this. You know, yeah, it was funny. Well, and it's, you know, that, again, influences like that. It was like, we were never trying to beat Korn.
No.
But you can't help but I always say that anything original that I ever did musically was just a result of me screwing up somebody else's stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to try to play this corn song. I'll just call that my own.
That sounds pretty good, though.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
It's kind of, so, when it comes to, it almost sounds like an oxymoron to me when somebody says, so you play original music? Like, well, no, not really. I mean, who really does? I mean, it would only be original if you've never heard music ever before, ever. That's the only way you could really call it purely original music, right? We all have influences, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and there used to be a big joke. One of the guys in the band that I was in at the time that I first met, in the band that I was playing in,
which is
a version of the band, Diesel Crutch. Randy Bannon, who has passed away, bless him, like a brother to me, and the only other guitar player that I could stand. He's the only other guitar player I ever played with in a band. Yeah, because I couldn't stand playing with other guitar players. Absolutely couldn't stand it. So Randy was the only one I could play with, period. But he used to call the band Rage Against the Peppercorns.
Because
he used to call our band that.
Because that's what he felt
we were like Rage Against the Machine, Korn, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yep.
Yeah, Rage Against the Peppercorn. That's what he used to.
Peppercorns with a K.
Yeah. Rage Against the Peppercorns. Yes, he used to call our band that.
Yeah.
The band that he was in. It was so funny, but we always thought that's all Randy right
that's
there.
That's good stuff, though, if you think about it.
Yeah, that was kind of, but it wasn't, we never took it that seriously. And again, it kind of comes back to.
What made him someone who you got along with so well compared to, is it like his ego and your ego fit together well?
It's all kind of a strange thing how me and Randy got to be friends, because going back to, this is so funny how that just tied together.
Yeah.
You're very good, Lori. You're good at this, man.
Natural.
Going back to getting in a band, seeing Vinnie Morning, getting in a band, kind of wanting to do my own thing, and then actually started experiencing some success. And band-wise, Psycho Love Tribe was the band.
Yeah.
That was my pinnacle.
I remember this so well.
Yeah, that was the pinnacle of the band thing. And, and this was at a time, and I really want to talk about this as well, because it's something that I don't know that exists anymore, but that was so magical about that time. There was a tribe, for lack of a better word, of bands at that time.
Right.
We were all playing similar music. None of us probably knew more than 2 sets of original music.
Right.
And we were all played together all the time.
Right.
We all got along, and there was this whole.
There was no
it was
animosity
awesome.
between you guys
There was this
at
huge
all.
brotherhood. There was always little crud,
Sure.
And I can tell you a funny story about
like
Scott Mackey.
Scott Mackey.
but it was always, and now I think back about it, and we kind of just had this a whole different way of the way the bands were presented in this town at the time, and this is all focused around the Silver Bullet at the time.
Oh yeah,
but
Dead Orchestra.
Yeah,
it was such a pivotal piece of that.
Talk about it. Yeah, Dead Orchestra, Us, Hostility, and then there was just a rank of other bands like Puckered Starfish, who went on to be Black Gasoline and
Black Gasoline.
And
it was
so
good.
Puckered Starfish. I can't even remember. Slam Dorothy was another band that was in that. Static Face was Scott Mackey's band at that time. And that was his first band, I think. I mean, I don't think he'd ever played. And Jeff, I don't know if Jeff Corbett, who everybody knows who Jeff Corbett is now, right?
Right.
He was, I think, 14 or 15 at the time, but he was in the club running sound at that time.
Yeah,
that's how I
first
met
that.
Jeff
He was
Corbett.
a little guy.
Yeah,
at the door of the Silver Bullet.
And the guy that was like our main sound man back in my
cow.
first band was a guy named John McBride. And
he ran sound and he married Martina
McBride.
Yeah,
go
that's
figure.
right.
Yeah, how bizarre
my
is
husband has some story about John McBride, like running sound for something, and
Doug
him
Adams
meeting
and John
Martina.
McBride.
Yeah,
and they had a sound company, and I'll never forget the last time that John ran sound for us, he was actually the light man on their little deal, and I can remember saying goodbye to him at the parking lot of the Silver Bullet, and he was going off to Disneyland. He had gotten a job at Disneyland.
Whoa, yeah.
And then next thing you know, we're Martina McBride. I was like, I remember her from the pool down at Fox Run, and it was like, wow. And then all of a sudden,
she's huge. Huge country and singer.
So happy for them.
Okay, there you go.
Sean Robinson was the bass player in Psycho Love Tribe, and Psycho Love Tribe started as Love in Rotation. It was different. We got
I remember this kind of.
And here, Tony Fortner we got Tony Fortner was a singer. He was in this other little band that was doing something at the time, and it was just kind of weird. But we ended up with Tony Fortner, and from there we replaced Zach with Sean Robinson, who Sean Robinson, bass player, and he ended up with a master's degree from the University of Hawaii playing bass.
Whoa.
This kid was the best bass player I'd ever even heard, and he was just out of high school, man. I mean, even back then,
like effortless.
He was just awesome. Well, at that time I was really into funk and Chili Peppers, and I've been listening to Chili Peppers since '86. So it was like,
I love them too.
Yeah, it was like totally into that type of thing. He's the only person I'd met in Wichita, period, that could play that.
Really?
And he wasn't and he wasn't into that. He was into doing the metal thing and kind of into pop rock and stuff like that. And I was like, try doing this slap stuff, man. Do this. And he was like, I can do that. What? I didn't know you wanted to be in a funk band. And I'm like, yes, I do, as a matter of fact. But
well, at least this song.
Well, it just kind of became our genre after that, because it was like he had the capabilities, and it was like, okay, now that opens up all kinds of crap, because I've always been into rap and funk and weird stuff like that. So I mean, he just had the capability, but that was amazing. And he's an amazing bass player, and still to this day amazing musician. And he lives in Hawaii now. So the only time I talk to him is Facebook.
Wow.
Facebook tie-in. There you go.
Yeah. So another Facebook tie-in. And you're getting good at this, Michael.
Anyway.
And you have a connection if you ever go to Hawaii.
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
can always hang out.
Well, the funny thing is, I did go to Hawaii and I didn't see him. We talked on the phone.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, yeah. He's like, he moved to a different island. Anyway, but Sean, amazing player. And I mean, it was one of those things. A lot of the people that came into that band didn't want to originally. And Sean was like, I don't want to.
Right.
And we were like, why not? He's like, I'm not into you guys' stuff and da-da-da-da-da. And we were kind of alternative for that time, and it's like, man, just give it a try. So we talked him into going to the studio with us to cut the only demo we ever did, right?
Yeah, you have a tape. You have a tape of Diesel Crutch, or is it Psycho Love Tribe? Or
I have everything. It started with, I've got everything that we ever did.
Shane Marler wants a copy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said
wow.
he knows there's a tape somewhere and he wants it.
No, I still have all that stuff. As a matter of fact, there's a couple websites that got started out there that have Psycho Love Tribe. Yeah, they've blasted them you can, and it wasn't.
Are they on YouTube?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, there's nothing on YouTube.
You'll have to send me the link if you can find it. Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's not true. If you go to YouTube, Psycho Love Tribe stuff's on YouTube.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not Diesel Crutch.
Yeah, I think that's what he's aiming for, because he's,
right.
Yeah. I don't know. He likes that heavy guitar stuff, and I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's there. I'll get him a tape, no problem.
I love listening to guitar players loving on each other. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, he's good. Wish I could do that.
But I forgot what I was talking about. Psycho Love Tribe.
Yeah.
This all got back to Randy Bannon. Anyway, we had gotten this drummer, Kobe Katie, who, again, he was a guy that I saw playing, and I was like, I need that guy in my band.
Right.
And this is,
So would you go after him and stuff? Okay.
Yeah. And it was kind of, I kind of got a bad rap because, first I saw Tony Fortner and I was like, I want that guy in my band. So it's like, Mike Santiago, sorry, you got to go. Yeah. And that was painful. Yeah. And it hurt. And
his feelings and then your relationship together. I mean, this
again was, there was, and me and Mike had several conversations about this later, and I didn't realize, again, this is like some of those things. I found it all pretty insignificant. And I always had this vision, and I was always very driven by my need to be accepted. That,
to have the best.
Yeah.
Because
I knew what
that
I
will
wanted,
make
and,
more fans.
And so, everybody else may have thought it was a band, but in my mind, and not consciously, I mean, I sound like a real jerk, but the fact was, I was going where I wanted to go with this thing, and this is what it was.
Nothing was getting in your way.
Well, it wasn't, and I felt like, there was only, it wasn't that, this guy was much better than Mike. He was different than Mike. Yeah. And I was like, this is where I want to go with the music. Right. I had something going on in my head.
Like a whole idea of your...
if I couldn't get it out with the people that I had, well, I had to get new people.
Right.
So that's what happened with this drummer. I found this drummer, Kobe Katie. And again, this guy was so amazingly consistent with his double bass action.
Right.
But he was also really tasty. Like, he could play jazz and stuff.
Wow.
But he could throw down,
So you're like,
I need that guy.
Yeah.
I need that guy. So I went after Kobe. Kobe didn't want to be in the band. And he was friends with all the Dead O guys.
Yeah.
But that's why, and I think the Dead O guys even said, come on, man, those guys are cool, you know, be in the band with them. And
finally talked him into it.
Yeah, and so I think they kind of, and he was like, well, you know, if they're friends with Dead O and, you know, Ronnie likes them, then I guess, you know, they're okay.
I can work with this a little while, see how it goes, whatever.
He ended up coming into the band, and his friend was Randy Bannon, the guitar player that you asked, you know.
Right.
And Randy was just kind of a hobby guitar player, you know, and he was Kobe's friend. And he was the worst piece of poison for Kobe.
Oh.
He's always like, I can't believe you're playing with these pussies.
Oh, no.
Man. You know, at that time, Randy was kind of into the thrash, skate, metal kind of thing.
Right. We're talking about Black Flag and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you know, and we weren't
Circle Jerks.
Yeah, you know, I don't even know what he was into, really. It was just, you know, there were some really weird bands at that time out there that was in that genre. But so, you know, and as it went on, Randy was always hanging around practice. Randy was always like, yeah, you guys are pussies. And you know, and just...
Like, I'm just here for the beer.
Yeah, but you know, Randy was funny... We loved Randy.
That song, Randy? Oh, it was all right, you know.
He was really... He was cool as could be, you know, but... I always had this impression that he didn't like us,
right?
You know, and he didn't like the band.
He just kind of put off that vibe for you.
Well, no, he used to flat out say it. You know, you guys suck. You know,
well, that might be why you
suck so bad. You know, he'd come to practice and talk about how bad we sucked and stuff. You know, and one day, then finally,
maybe he was just the hard coach. You know,
yeah, he was just Randy. You know, and then one day our first gig with Kobe, and I'm like, it was nervous, you know, it was nervous, It was nerve wracking, and there's Randy was sitting off the side of the stage giving Kobe beers and stuff. And,
oh shit!
And just kind of had this attitude, like he's looking around. I told this story at Randy's funeral, by the way.
Oh wow!
And because it was so Randy, you know, and anybody that knew him, and he's just kind of, and I was like, dang it, man, and we kicked ass, and like after the first set. You know, the Dead O guys were there, and everybody, you know, they're like, yeah, man,
awesome.
Getting Kobe in the band was the best thing ever. You guys sound great, man. It was awesome. We had a great, huge crowd that night and everything. Yeah. And I just couldn't. I was like, thanks a lot. I got to talk to this dude.
Yeah.
This dude, because it was just bothering me.
Yeah.
It had been bothering me, you know, for a month now.
You couldn't let it go
and
one
finally,
more second.
I walk over to Randy and I go, dude, what is your problem? And he was like, hey. And if anybody knew Randy, this is my best Randy impersonation. They're going to say this is spot on. Hey, what are y'all mad about? And I go, what is your problem? Why don't you like us?
Yeah.
He goes, what do you mean? You guys are my favorite pussies.
What do you mean?
You guys are my favorite pussies.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that was Randy in a nutshell, man. And
that had me crying there.
Oh, and you know, and at that point forward, he was not a egotistical guitar player. He was always like he loved to play. I mean, the guy was really super dedicated, but he was always like willing to listen and like take direction or whatever. He never came into this like thing like let's be dual guitar players. You know, he was like, hey man, I'll play, you do your deal because your deal's good, man.
Yeah,
I can hold this thing down. You do your deal,
right?
And I'll, you know, and ended up, you know, we ended up commingling much more with, you know, it wasn't all like I'll do all the lead, you do all the no. I mean, we ended up being very equal in that sense. And
that's kind of cool too. It gives you a break when you need it and stuff like that.
There was just never any competition. Yeah, you know, and there was no uncomfortability as far as, you know. I want to do it this way, or I want to, you know, and I found that with every other guitar player I played with, you know,
there was that competition.
I want to do it this way, I want to do it that way, and I was just
or
like,
that isn't the way you do it, or whatever.
And again, I had my own idea,
right? And
Randy was willing, like, to buy into that idea and go, yeah, let's try it, you know,
so
or
you
let's
just got along
make
well.
suggestions.
Your
I love that kid, man. I mean, it's so, and I mean, him passing away, you know, that was, I wasn't, you know, of course, this is just very recently, so it wasn't.
How long ago was this?
I think it's been about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
4 or 5 years ago, and that was tough, man. But not anywhere's. And you know, this is, you know, kind of going back to people that. And you talked about Diesel Crutch, and in the version of Diesel Crutch that Shane remembers was Billy Graves was the singer in that band, and Billy died. And that's really.
He died a while back, didn't he?
Yeah, that was really. I think where my interest in the music scene ended.
Oh, really?
I think it died with him in a way.
Really?
Yeah,
because
it had
just
changed.
Took all the air out of the scene, or
the scene had changed, and I mean, when we had, when I was talking about like the Silver Bullet, we got to the point where we realized we put on a much better show if we played one set. And there's all
Right.
these other bands that only play one set. We only have one set of music, you know.
Right.
We used to be, you'd have to play 4 hours
Right.
a night,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
to make a paycheck. Well, it was like, hey, man, so we were doing these bullet paloozas is what we call them.
Right.
Every time we booked a show, there was at least 3
4
other bands.
yeah.
And like sometimes on special occasions, it was 10.
Whoa.
You know, and so this.
So you get like 2 or 3 songs and you're out of there.
Yeah, more or less. You know,
Yeah.
it was just like, you know,
Yeah.
it was
It's
just
more tuning up than it's actual playing time.
It was
probably.
great though because
Yeah.
you get up there and you do your 3 best songs,
Yeah.
or your 4 best songs.
So
and
the ones you got mastered.
Yeah, man. And
Yeah.
so and it was great. We had these huge crowds, you know, and
Right.
it was like every time we played. And Dead Orchestra was, you know, and those guys, I can't tell you. Dead Orchestra and my first band, Love and Rotation, started at the same time.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of contention. They hated us.
Why?
Okay, I never
Just
knew why.
'cause,
I didn't know why. I thought they were
Just
cool as
because
shit.
they were full of testosterone.
No,
and-
well, here's a funny story. And you know, and Joel Hester is one of my favorite people and a fantastic guitar
I'd love
player.
to have him
Oh,
on.
God,
Wouldn't that
man.
be cool?
Joel can sit and tell you stories.
I know
that
too.
will just make your toes curl, though. I mean, that guy has been. You want to talk about some
Yeah,
friggin'
I'm gonna have
rock
to
and
have
roll
whiskey
scars?
for that one if I ever do that.
Yeah, it's amazing,
Yeah.
dude. He's got stories, but that guy's an amazing guitar player, and you know he's got to do a lot of cool stuff. And so I was really was enamored of Miles and Joel. You know,
Miles,
together
yeah.
they were amazing players, and Joel was never mean to me. You know, I can say
He's
that.
nice. You
No,
know?
he
always
was never.
seemed
He was
nice.
always cool. That guy has a heart. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
And he smile. You know, a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
people in the scene would be like hard.
no,
Not him,
he was
you
so
know.
cool. And I mean,
Really,
and-
Miles either.
No, and I don't know what the contention, and I do, but and we'll get to that. But Ronnie True has been a friend of mine, and you know,
Oh,
Ronnie at
Ronnie.
that time, he was the granddaddy of us all, you know, and he was,
Yeah, he
you know,
was.
he took care of Dead Orchestra, and later on, you know, he took care of my band as
Yeah.
well. I mean, that guy, he was just a
He was
saint,
like a producer, entrepreneur,
and just all around,
Yeah.
you know, like your best.
security guard.
Yeah, he was like your big brother,
Yeah,
you know, in
yeah.
so many ways. And it's so funny, Ronnie True. Believe it or not, I met Ronnie True when I was in 6th grade.
Whoa.
And he went to Wilbur Junior High, I'm pretty sure, and then it was West High because
Is that what you did too?
He was
or-
either at Hadley or at Wilbur, but anyway, there were some older kids that lived across the street from me that were real close friends. Mark Fallon, who was like my big brother at that time, and I was getting messed with in school for something I don't remember what. Ronnie True came over on his Yamahopper. He was riding a bike even back then.
Whoa.
He
Yeah.
was a football player then. A lot of
Oh,
people
wow.
don't know that.
He loved bikes though.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. So
couldn't get him off it.
there's Ronnie True on his Yamahopper, and he's going to take care of the bullies at Wilbur that were messing with me.
Oh wow.
Can you believe that? And that was my first introduction to Ronnie True.
He was
He
your
was
already
there to
your security guard.
Yeah, to you know, and for no reason other than he was
'Cause he
friends
took
with my
care of the
dude across the
neighborhood,
street.
you know?
Yeah, and you know, it was like that was so, and he wasn't really even from our neighborhood. He was just kind of a badass. And
Yeah.
my friend Mark was like,
Happen to know.
man,
Be
yeah,
friends with him.
And Ronnie's like, yeah, I'll take care of that for you. And so, I knew Ronnie, and he was like that big brother the rest of his life. You know, the rest
For
of his
everybody,
life. And always
almost.
a
It seemed
dear
like
friend.
everybody who knew him
Oh yeah.
thought that of him. You know.
Absolutely. And you know, and so always a really good friend to me. And of course, so he was never going to let anybody do anything really horrible
Right.
to me. You
Right.
know, so I mean, I always kind of knew that.
That's good.
Well, as long as Ronnie's around those dead O
As long
guys,
as I don't
he's-
mess up
yeah,
my relationship with Ronnie,
he's
or else
not
he'll
gonna-
put you in the bottom of the river. You know.
right. He's not gonna let Joel and Justin kick my ass or anything.
Too
so,
hard. Yeah.
But it was really funny anyway. We had this big contention, Dead O and us, and then when we kind of changed the name Psycho Love Tribe, and our first show, I'll never forget, Tony and us up standing up there, new singer, you know, and
Yeah.
we had a whole new set of songs and everything. And Joel stands up in the middle, and the place was packed. Silver Bullet, our first gig. Joel stands and says, "You better watch out, new boy." Yells that out to Tony. And
You better
I'm just
watch out,
going,
new boy.
oh, and I thought,
See,
I
yeah.
was so hoping this thing would be over, you know. I
Yeah.
was like, I hope the Dead Orchestra, the Love and
That's
Rotation thing
before you
was
played,
done.
huh? Right then.
Yeah. Well, after the first set, they all came up and were like, yeah, that was awesome, you know. And then I was like, you mean we're cool now? And they were
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're all friends. It was all great. And
Yeah.
and then it was. I mean, it was Justin Cromos and Joel, you know, and I'd say their last names because I want them to be recognized.
Yeah,
for,
definitely.
You know, Joel Hester and Greg
Justin-
Larilla and
Justin
Grant.
dated my sister at the time, so
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
right. That's where I
hey.
first met Lisa, exactly.
Yeah.
and Grant Smith, of course, who I can't say enough about as a person nowadays. Still friends,
all great guys,
and so
every one of them.
Such an amazing drummer. I mean, what that guy was doing with
double
the drums.
Bass. Oh man,
friggin' unreal. And I don't know how Dead Orchestra turned up with two amazing drummers, because Grant first and then Marshall Kilpatrick later,
right?
Who friggin' amazing drummers. These guys.
Right.
The talent coming out of Wichita from behind the drum kit is crazy at that time.
And there is a lot of talent in Wichita, and it's kind of under the radar, but it's definitely there. You can see whatever you want to see around here.
It's true. And right now, and it seemed like at that time, and that's kind of what it is. That's kind of my thing about that. At that time, there was just this whole little brotherhood,
right.
And there was live shows, and there was this actual scene. And of course that music's kind of died out. And I mean, I understand that and I'm not saying that there's not now. It's just changed. It's shifted.
It's gotten a little more electronic and
my
stuff
memories,
like that.
or bluegrassish or
right,
whatever.
Right, exactly.
It's funny. Scott Mackey made the comment on Facebook not too long ago. He was like, he was running sound somewhere. He goes, "Oh no, not another band with a banjo." It was like, how many bands with banjos can we see?
Scott Mackey doesn't like running sound for banjo because he.
Yeah.
he just doesn't know what to do with that. Know what to do with that thing.
It's funny though, but yeah. So there's still a scene, but at that time it seemed like there was this whole kind of brotherhood, and it was And going back to that theme, is like as the bands kind of progressed, things that when that scene kind of fell apart, being the Silver Bullet kind of
right.
A lot of those bands disappeared, and Psycho Love Tribe broke up for that matter, and
right.
And the whole Diesel Crutch thing kind of came out of the ashes of that. And it was
right.
Three guys I didn't know at all. Just showed up at my door one day.
Really?
And said,
so let's put together a band.
We want to play. And I was like, no, they've never been in a band before.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't even know if they could play. Yeah. And it was like, what are you doing here? What? And
how did they know you?
Billy knew me through a mutual friend of ours, Billy, and so he kind of knew me. I knew him from kind of hanging out around the scene and being at shows and stuff. That's how. So I knew Billy. The other two dudes, I didn't know them from nothing.
They were just friends of Billy's.
Just friends, yeah, I guess. Yeah. And they were just guys, and they wanted to be in a band. And I can remember sitting in my parents' living room. I was still living with my parents at the time because I was a rock and roller.
Yeah.
And of course I couldn't have a job. So so
you should see the quotation marks flying in here, guys.
You should see
crazy.
That. So these guys just show up in my house, and it was of course Robbie Kreider and Jason Gordon, and Billy Graves, and they're like, we want to be in a band, and I was like, what do you want to do? And they're like, oh, I don't know, you're the guy. You're the Psycho Love Tribe guy, man. Yeah. We just want to be in your band. Right. And I'm like, I don't have a band. I'm not in a band right now.
We dissolved.
We're dissolved, exactly. And I had done a little side project with Randy Bannon and Sean Robinson, the bass player from Psycho Love Tribe, and this Kevin, and I wish I could remember his last name, but great drummer, really young kid. And it was called Knuckle Bucket. And
Knuckle Bucket.
I
didn't hear about
Yeah, we only played like 3 or 4 shows, right? It was just something to do, It was just kind of fun. And actually, Randy played guitar.
Just like playing live for people.
And I sang.
I
sang.
Okay.
I left the guitar at home.
Oh, really?
Completely, yeah.
You just totally
and that's the only way
put
I told
on the show?
Yeah, Randy said, hey, let's get a band together. And I was like, I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to. I just got done with the Psycho Love Tribe thing, and that was kind of contentious between me and Tony for a while, and all this kind of, and it was just, and I was just worn out. It was a lot of work.
Yeah,
it was a lot of work, and did
you guys tour at all?
Not tour, no. I mean, really, we just played around here.
But it's just a lot of work, like managing it. Where are you going to be? Talking to people, being connected.
Weekend. It was like we played all. We played all the time, and if you weren't playing, you're practicing. If you weren't, and then it was
just partying all the time too.
And that was really a partying time too. Yeah. So it just became. So these guys just showed up and were like, "Hey, let's start a band." And I went and played. I said they gave me some cover songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is the weirdest shit." No, they wanted me to play guitar. They wanted me to start another Psycho Love Tribe. And they wanted to be my backup band. That's what it was. Okay. So they really had no clue, and I had no clue what they were even capable
they had this,
of.
Bizarro idea, and
I was the
it
center
fell
of
into your lap.
Yeah,
and you had to either figure it out or let it go.
Master plan, right?
And you did. You said, "Hey, maybe,
oh my God,
maybe I'll do this."
No, I said, "Okay, I'll come over." And so I borrowed an amp. I didn't even have an amp at the time.
Yeah.
That's how far I just I just
get rid of everything.
No, I didn't get rid of everything, but I just wasn't playing. So who needed an amp?
Right.
Playing acoustic guitar in my living room. So these guys, and I go over there to play these cover songs, and the drummer can't play.
Oh shit!
No offense, Jason, you couldn't play. Robbie
gotta learn sometime.
Robbie was just going through the motions, and he was so shy, but he had great hair. He had awesome hair.
Good hair, and the girls liked him.
And
so
Billy
that
was just singing, and I thought you guys, and I remember told Billy, I was like, look, man, that drummer's it's not gonna work.
Right.
I was like, he can't play, man. I was like, we can't. Thanks.
He has not rhythm, so
thanks for thinking of me, but I'm out of here.
Right.
Well, about 2 weeks later, Billy calls me back up, and he's like, come on, man, come out again. Give this thing a try. And I was like, the songs you picked suck. I don't want to do them. I said, there's only one song I like out of that whole group that you picked. And I was like, so if we can't play that song, then forget it. And he's like, just come over and play this one song. And I'm like, this is the hardest song to play on friggin' drums. This guy can't play drums.
Right.
Fucking nailed it. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, 2 weeks ago, I'm over here, and you're the worst drummer I've ever heard. And basically, he was like, I was so nervous. I couldn't.
Oh, okay.
He was like,
I flubbed it all.
Just flubbed. Just totally. And I mean, here's for second chances, because this guy, and I mean, to this day, Jason Gordon had some of the most talented hands I had ever seen in my life.
Right.
He was one of the fastest, most intricate technical drummers with his hands.
Right.
I mean, it was
and these guys are putting on a full workout,
early on, I mean, this was still, these guys evolved into these players, as far as, at first it was all just kind of pretty simple, but we got together and Puckered Starfish, which is later was Brian Seeley and Matt Massey and these guys, we all lived in the same house. We all got a house together on Mary's Drive, the old Mary's Drive house, and we just started practicing.
The old Mary's Drive house.
Yeah, it was just like when we started practicing, we started putting together, and I started, once again, I was like, what can I do with these guys? And it kind of became a deal. It was like, well, and I started, and it was always kind of in my wheelhouse to like find bands out there that were, and go, hey, let's capture this.
Right.
Can you do this? Can you play like that guy? And with Jason, it became, I realized this guy had some really great chops. He was a different kind of player. He wasn't a Pantera player.
Right.
So I was like, where are these? And it was like No Effects. The
okay.
punk band No Effects.
Right.
The drummer's amazing. But Jason could do that stuff. He had that kind of hands,
Right.
And who were I'm trying to think of other bands we were like trying at that time that we were really into, like Korn and stuff.
Yeah.
But more than that, I'm trying to think if there was another band. There was a band called Therapy that was an industrial punk band, but they were industrial. Now,
right.
They were industrial, and I was into the whole industrial.
Is that before Ministries, right?
No, I mean it was around the same time as Ministry was. Ministry had actually been around for a lot longer than that, but KMFDM and Therapy, and this was kind of the new wave. Pitch Shifter was a big band in that type of. But Therapy actually played their own instruments, a lot like Ministry. So they had a drummer. They didn't have a machine.
Right.
And this guy was doing some really bizarro friggin' like techno beats, but he was playing them on drums. I remember giving Jason that CD and I was like, learn it.
Yeah.
Learn those beats, man, because if you can play those then we can write some songs.
Right.
I can do something with this.
Right.
That's what Diesel Crutch came out of.
Cool.
It was like, you learn these industrial beats, because that's where I wanted to go at this point.
Right.
It was like, I wanted
somewhere
to do
different.
kind of an industrial type of weird thing, right?
Right.
So, and that's kind of what industrial, now, eventually, and this is after Billy passed and Randy was in the band, eventually it became more Rage Against the Corn Peppers, but because we started playing more. Anyway, we just again another evolution of music. Yeah, we got a little bit more, and I think we actually wrote, and no one ever heard. We made a demo,
right?
In that version of the band, and I sang and played guitar, and Randy played backup guitar, and with Jason Robbie. And Jason and Robbie had become amazing players at this point, really good players.
Right.
I mean, Rip and Robbie Kreider got a write-up in the Wichita Eagle as like the best part of our band. And
cool.
Yeah. So it was really cool, and to see those guys grow and start from two guys in my living room going, "Hey, we want to be in a band."
We didn't really know anything.
You want to play in a band with us? So these guys turned out to be really great players and that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but Billy. The band scene had dissolved, and now we were playing, and there was still kind of a scene, but it was Kirby's and Kirby's 2, and then some other weird places, that we were playing. So that whole brotherhood of the Silver Bullet was gone.
Yeah, the West Side kind of.
Yeah, and
all those, a West Side kind of thing.
Those bands, Now Dead Orchestra was still playing and stuff, so we were still doing a lot of shows with Deado whenever they were in town. They were traveling a lot at that time.
Right.
So, but when they were in town, they always invited us to play, which was awesome, and those were great shows. But we did one other thing, and I think the reason that's funny about Shane, and maybe he remembers it or not, but America's Pub called us. I don't know why.
America's Pub, huh?
America's Pub, back in the day when they were on the corner, that's now the hotel banquet rooms. But they were right there on the corner.
Right.
And back, Old Town hadn't really gotten started yet.
Right. It was when it was starting.
Yeah.
Right then.
Mort's was there. America's Pub was there.
Right.
America's Pub calls us for some reason and says, we want you guys to do a show on the patio. And I was like, okay. And they were like, you guys don't play like rap or dance music, right? We were like, no. They said we don't want a rap or dance band because that's inside.
Right.
So we want a different thing outside to kind of our patio.
Counteract the
right.
Or get the crowd that
the
other one doesn't.
So we're out there and we bring out Larry Jones, the sound man, who was our sound man for a long time back in the day, and we hadn't used Larry a lot because playing small clubs, Larry had the sound man. I mean, he had this...
so he knew the sound.
Man, he brings out these double 32-inch basses and stuff and loads that patio to the gills.
Holy cow.
And I think they're going, what is going on?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're thinking, maybe they have some music on the patio.
Right.
Well, we had a totally different thing in mind, you know? And so...
you blow the patio
loaded it up. And then... some rock station, classic rock station, was out there doing a live remote from the patio tonight at America's Pub. Hey, Diesel Crush is going to be rocking the house. It's going to be a great time out here. And I remember the guy was like, so what kind of stuff do you guys do? And when do the people come out? And I was like, maybe they should just stay home, Bob. And he was like, okay. So back to anyway. So it was just like we were just trying. It was so not. And these people were coming out. And we're playing Korn over this huge system as we're setting up and stuff, Right. And I can remember these guys coming out on the patio and going, "What the heck's that?"
Yeah.
And they're like,
here for the rap and the
what are
dance
they playing?
Music. Yeah.
It was a really weird deal. And they're trying to tell us, "Hey, man, turn around your baseball caps." And we were like, "No, we're the band." I mean, this was weird. It was just this weird thing.
Yeah.
So then there's us. It was packed.
Yeah.
The patio was packed, and we brought everybody, and it was packed.
Good.
And we were really surprised. But the first song we play sets off every car alarm at Mort's. And they're like, you got to turn it. You can't.
You got to turn it down.
It's like, well, that's BS.
Breaking ordinance.
Yeah. So anyway, that turned out, that night ended up, and they didn't know how to deal. They had a lot of security, and they didn't know how to deal with moshing or people being up on the stage.
Not downtown.
And we were
There's
all...
no moshing.
Well, that turned out to be the riot of America's Pub that night. It may have been the first time.
So when I hear other people saying that one time they were at America's Pub and there was a riot, it's probably just you guys.
That was it. It was the first night of music on the patio. They had mounted police blocked off that 2nd Street in front of that place. And we'd never... Now, after, recently Doc Howard's and stuff, they did it every night, you know? But this was the first time that actually I'd ever seen anyway, where they had to pour the people out of the club onto the street because there was so many fights happening all at once.
Oh my God.
And it all started with some kids moshing. A security guard ran over there and pinned this kid up against the fence. I'm on stage and I go, get you guys over here. Get over here. Because they were beating this kid up, and I was like, get over here. And they said, they thought I was telling the crowd to beat them up.
Oh, no.
So every bouncer starts fighting with somebody.
Oh,
and it was just like, oh, God, this thing was... And they blamed me.
Right.
Yeah, it was all my fault.
It's all your fault.
But they had us back.
Oh, I was going to ask that. That was my next question.
So it was funny. They had us back. And so what we did eventually, after a couple shows there, and we had Joel. Joel had a band at the time that was like a weird rap thing. It was called Grub Bone.
I didn't know about
it was Joel and AD and HD. I I don't remember. There was these two
these
two rappers. Yeah, it was like ADHD. I'm sure I'm wrong on that name, but these guys were really fun and they were really cool and they were into like this. They were rappers.
Yeah,
I mean they were the real deal, but they were totally into like the music side of it.
ADHD.
Yeah. So they had something like that.
That is so good.
I'm so gonna screw that up. And they'll be like, I can't believe.
Oh, that's good. If that hasn't happened yet, it should.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
So yeah, Joel and those, but we ended up doing a Pubapalooza. So we decided to try to bring it back.
Bring it around.
Time. So Dead Orchestra played it. Deado played it. Well, it was hard to find bands. Is what the thing was, because we didn't have this whole network of bands anymore. So so Dead Orchestra agreed to do it. They were on their way out of town to New York that night, and they said, "Yes, we'll come by and play a set." So they pulled up in their bus. It was so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. So Deado played Share UK, who's a band from Kansas City, or from Lawrence, that we'd kind of made friends with, and us, and then there was a bunch of other bands, but Phil was there.
Awesome.
And Partners of Torment were there, and Partners of Torment was John Ray's band from way back in high school.
So there we go, back to the full circle right there.
Yeah, it was so cool. Yeah, and I mean, and we had, that was a great night. Actually, it really worked out, and it was really cool.
All right, and from his Psycho Love Tribe time in the band, this is the song And Stuff So. Enjoy.
I shove it, I love it, I save it, I love
Catch a Pocket can be found on the Podbean app, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Podcasts, and Spotify. You can email questions and concerns to catchapocket@gmail.com. Special thanks goes out to Phil and Fletcher Burris for helping with me with technical aspects of producing this podcast. Jeff and Zach Tuttle for photos I use on Facebook and Instagram. Lisa and Kirk Runstrom for allowing me to use music in this podcast. And thank you to Michael Lacey for being my guest, sharing some of his music, and sharing his life with us. Don't forget to tune in a few weeks when I do Michael Lacey's part 2 of episode 7. And he has a lot more to tell. Very interesting stuff. I hope you join us and listen. I'd also like to thank anyone who supports this podcast and takes the time to give it a listen. Please share it with your friends and share it on Facebook and Twitter and all that crap. I hope you all catch a pocket you can be proud of. Hey everybody, next time for listening to the Catch a Pocket podcast. I'm your host, Lori Burris, and some takeaways that I have from this interview with the wonderful Michael Lacey is that we should cherish the fun we have in our lives, and without some mistakes, you wouldn't be the person that you become today. As long as we reflect on the lessons we learned at that time, we will take something from the thing that we had not known before. So we may even be able to use the lesson later if we're lucky enough to put it all together. So we're continuing our voyage with Mr. Michael Lacey in part 2 of our podcast. We ended the last episode with the bands playing a gig and Dead O and O Phil being at America's Pub in Old Town in Wichita before Old Town was a big deal. It was just starting. But the music scene for metal bands was changing. Life changes. And we'll start in on where life is changing for Michael. Thanks for listening again. And in the middle of this episode, I'm going to run a song by Diesel Crutch called Reason for Force. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to conclude it with Dad's Dream, which I hope you stick around for. Thanks for listening, and have a great evening or day or afternoon.
I was enjoying to something that wasn't enjoyable anymore.
Right.
And it started with Billy, and because this was kind of, it was kind of indicative to the time that a lot of people were doing drugs in a real bad way, and I was watching a lot of people's lives
like getting hooked on heroin, that kind of drugs, or
meth. It was meth. Meth became
wow.
And I saw a lot of people go straight down the toilet
because of meth.
Because of meth.
Yeah.
And I was watching all my friends go down the toilet, and the people that were not going down the toilet due to this drug were either getting out of the band scene, or were dying. Crazy. And Billy died.
Right.
And that's
on meth, or
no,
was it
he was
something
murdered.
Else? He was murdered because
he was murdered over a drug deal.
Drugs.
And that was something I couldn't live with. I mean, it was something that was extremely.
It just shows you what that drug does to people if it'll make you murder someone who's a good person,
And there was just
no reason at all.
It was the thing that really bothered me most about it was that there was a culture around the drugs that made it so Billy was murdered, and now there was like, oh, we never found out who did it. Well, there was 100 people that know who did it.
Yeah.
And no one ever said, because they didn't want to get implicated in the meth. They didn't want
whatever.
They were
the epidemic. They were part of the problem.
They were part of the problem. They didn't want to be identified, or
as a snitch or get a bad name or whatever. That's
because they could be next.
Right.
That's for
real.
real.
Well, if you're ready to kill somebody, you could kill anybody.
Yeah, it was a real bad. It was a really dark time as far as music for me.
Right.
And that kind of goes back to the fact that I never needed music to express myself. I was a guitar player, and I mean, I still to this day, people are like, "Do you still play?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have any desire to be in a band. That's not something
you don't
that was
play in a band, but you
I play.
do pick
You
up
couldn't.
the guitar.
I couldn't put down the guitar. If there's
Right.
ever a spare moment, there's a guitar in my hand.
Yeah.
Even to this day,
It's your therapy, right? I
Right.
mean, it's your.
It's just something I do. I just can't. But I've always been that person that if you put too many obstacles in front, if you can't adapt. And
Right.
I mean, there's this. My dad used to tell a story about. I used to ride my bike when I was a kid. Ride my bike. It was my bike was my life. And they said you're grounded from your bike, and they chained it to the back porch.
Right.
It rested on the back porch. I never asked for it back. I never. And you know what? I just I dealt with it. I just
like you just got into
I found something else to do.
Yeah.
Until I got a new bike. And
Right.
some kid at school or something was like, "I'll trade your bike for your snake or whatever." And
like, here you go.
I was like, "Yeah, now I got a new bike. That bike can go bite one." And they were just amazed. They're like, "I can't believe it. I can't believe that punishment didn't work." Well,
Right.
it did work. I was pissed, but you just adapt. You just
Right.
keep going, and that's kind of
and that's kind of how you did.
I didn't need,
during the drug
right.
part of
I didn't need a band to play guitar, and I
Right.
definitely didn't need a band to express myself. And it kind of all went back to that thing
And
about
you didn't need crystal meth either. So there you go.
No one needs that. And
No.
there was again, kind of going back to the thing that there was always this drive for acceptance. And I
Right.
found out at one point, that when I was really in the band, the Psycho Love Tribe thing, and it was really going well, and blah blah blah, and I wasn't really looking, for my dad's acceptance anymore.
Right.
But there was really this revelation at one point where I overheard my dad playing my tape for people.
Ah.
And he was
proud.
telling
He was
them
proud of him.
how good I was.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, he never told me that.
Right.
He never told me that.
But it meant more even because probably it meant more than telling you because...
No, F that. He should have told me.
I agree with that, though.
He should have told me.
But it is nice.
Well, like I said at the beginning of this,
catch 'em, being
I wish
proud.
I could say he was one of my influences. I wish he
Right.
would have been more encouraging or been more
Right.
involved in my musical education or my musical, background. But he wasn't, and
Right.
it was because, and the kicker to this was that on the Psycho Love Tribe, the end of the tape, we had a few minutes left, and Kobe's playing this sweet jazz beat, and Sean comes in on the bass and starts playing this like lounge shuffle, and I was like, this is begging for some poetry, right? So I pick up the mic and we do this deal, and it was a dream that my dad had,
Right.
and he was sitting at the counter and he's telling me about this dream, and he's like, and there was these kittens, and there was white ones, and there were striped ones, and I lifted this board in the garage, and there was just all these kittens. And my mom pipes in, she goes, "Is that why you wake up in the middle of the night going, sons of bitches, son of the bitches?" And I was like, what is that? And I just like, that was so funny. And he was like, "Well, I do not." And she's like, "Yes, you did. You woke up saying, sons of bitches, sons of bitches." And I thought this was so bizarre. And I don't know. So I did this whole thing. And it was, I had a dream, and there was kittens, there was white ones and striped ones.
Oh,
and I go,
wow.
and I repeat this 3 or 4 times. And then at the end of it, I go, "Sons of bitches." And we just all laugh. And that was the end of the tape, And
So awesome.
And it was like, and Tony, the thing, he's like, we were all laughing, and he's like, "Boy, your old man's going to get credit for this one." And so we put it on the album.
Yeah.
And it was just joking around, and I called it Dad's Dream.
Yeah.
And my dad and my mom told me this story later, but he was listening to the CD, which, I mean, I still can't believe he listened to it. And I mean, it was just him and Mom.
Yeah.
And they got to the end and that little thing, and he was like looking at, and it was Dad's Dream. And he said to my mom, he says, "Michael really likes me, doesn't he?"
Like he never knew that before?
Yeah.
Aww. That's
Yeah, and that was
sad, actually, to think about.
I never
that he
realized
probably thought you didn't like him.
he had the same insecurities that I was
Right.
dealing with in the opposite. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Here we were musically, because of music maybe,
Right.
polarized in this way, and just he was looking for that same acceptance.
That you were.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's very touching.
It makes me tear up a little bit. No, I mean, in all honesty,
seriously,
because
that's a good
and
story.
it's a good ending to the story because it closed a chapter in my life,
Right.
that was obviously fueled by
Right.
that desire to be accepted by him, who I respected so much as a musician.
Isn't
So
that something?
yeah, it's something, and but in a bigger way, because I never tried to, there was a point where I gave up. Like I said, I
Right.
wanted to just be so successful doing my own thing that I was able to go, hey, screw you, man. I made it anyway, whatever. And that's not the way it was. It's changed that whole dynamic and that whole thought. But that was the motivation. It's almost like, Dave Mustaine doing Megadeth because he hated Metallica so much for kicking him out of the band. And
exactly.
Then eventually it was all because, well, look what it did. That's what fueled him in the early days.
And
so
that's awesome, man.
So it was like, that was that was a big part musically for me, and it's and
that I'll show you, like
well, I didn't know that at the time, but I can look back at that introspectively, now and realize that, and going back to Ian Ottaway.
Oh yeah.
Which I said I was gonna when I said there was two people that have influenced me more than anybody, and Ian Ottaway taught me nothing musically,
right? Nothing,
but from a perspective of being who you want to be, saying what you want to say, and
all the time,
and reveling in your own brilliance sometimes when no one else will.
Right, because maybe it is or maybe it's not.
that's man.
He was great.
He's the most unique and the most original person and the most original thinker and maybe one of the most eloquent storytellers in some of the weirdest ways that I've ever heard in my life.
Scarily.
And if you don't follow him, and I know I'm definitely going to put like a link to this interview on that.
Please
and
do.
so many people that know Ian are going to hear this, and it's so important.
They're going to have to tell him.
And I still talk to Ian all the time.
He'll love that too, because he's so full of himself.
No, he's not though. See, this is the thing about Ian is that he's not full of. I mean, I think he's so misunderstood in a lot of ways. But Ian is actually this very beautiful person.
Yeah.
That and I consider him a soul brother supreme.
Oh wow.
Me and that guy cannot. We'll never be disconnected. And, he's in Germany right now.
I didn't know that.
And for years, sometimes we haven't talked, and it all comes right back together.
Yeah.
And when there's rough times in our lives,
he's wonderful to talk to. I love talking whenever I've ever, except for one time he was with my sister too.
You're really making your sister look bad right now.
I'm sorry, Lisa. But they were dating way back.
Yeah.
And, I was staying the night there, so, with my friends or something, and he came in, and Lisa came in, they might have been drinking or something when they came in, and I'm sitting there, and he put me in a headlock and then passed out. And I was like, I woke up in a headlock still.
They're so Iron for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that guy, his life, and I mean, this is something I admire about Ian, is that he for all of the crazy crap that guy has done in his life, he has lived it, dude. Yeah. He has never let anything get in his way of doing exactly what he wants to do. And I mean, that's one of the things. I was always too, I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
Well, you can't just run off to Finland with some girl you met on Facebook. What are you, insane?
Yeah.
Not him. Oh hell no, he's going.
I'm
man.
going.
He's going.
I already bought my ticket.
And he's man. And I'll tell you, want to know great. And this is to describe, because Ian, when I first met him, he was like, we need to go to LA. We need to go to LA. Man, you're the best guitar player I've ever heard. We need to go to LA. We need to go to LA. We need to go. Musically, he taught me a lot as far as he introduced me to a lot of different things. He was like, it's okay to be different.
Yeah, he liked.
And I was still stuck in this, high school, college sort of state of mind.
Sure.
And, here's this guy, that's what he brought to my life, was like, be yourself. Don't worry about what other people think. And I mean, that was really a huge turning point in my life, as far as I never would have been out musically doing the things that I would have done and things if it wasn't for Ian. And to this day, like I said, he's my
mentor type.
He's whenever something goes wrong in my life, he can make sense of it for me. It's interesting.
Okay.
He is
he's like your Buddha or something.
It's I like to compare it more to some sort of narcotic, because that's really.
He's like your LSD.
Yeah, no, Ian's my my sedative. You gotta. I'll take a piece of him whenever things just get
out of hand,
too much, or whatever. And I mean, it's still, and he's an amazing friend in that way, and he's always been
your Zen master,
always been there for me, really. And I mean, I truly believe that guy, for all of his weirdness, and Ian's not meant for mass consumption.
No, he's pretty.
But on the level that I know that guy, he's probably the person more than anybody that I think would take a bullet for me, literally.
Wow, yeah,
I believe that, and
cool.
He's an amazing guy. But anyway, a friend of mine had moved to Arizona. Ian went to LA. He went. He was like, well, I got to go, Mike. You should come with me.
Yeah, be my guitar
I shouldn't
player.
be the one going to L.A. You should be the one going to L.A.
Yeah, he did go.
And he went. And and after a few years in L.A., a friend of mine had started working with a paper in Arizona. He was in Arizona, and he was doing an interview with Alice in Chains. Lane Staley at the time was still alive.
Okay.
And he was interviewing Lane Staley, and he said, originally I'm from Wichita, Kansas. He told Lane Staley that. He goes, Lane Staley says, I know a guy from Wichita. And my friend, who also knew Ian, said, Ian Ottaway. And he goes, yes.
How did you know?
Yes, Ian Ottaway. He goes, that's the craziest MFer I've ever met. He goes, he is so bizarre, dude.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, and he's telling me, and Ian talks about Wichita like it's this land of Oz type place, and like it's just totally makes it so weird. And he goes, and just, we're all just kind of like, what are you talking about? He talks about quick trips and all this stuff, and he's like, and he's just, and of course you can see Ian spinning tales, that's what he did, and he's a wordsmith, so it's just like, and he's going, man, that guy is just completely out of here. He's the craziest dude I've ever met. Lane Staley said that about Ian. Now, Lane Staley's dead of a heroin overdose now. Right. And I'm like...
And he's the crazy one.
That's right. And I always said, and I remember Ian saying, he's like, I got to go to L.A. because people in Wichita don't get me. They'll get me out there. And I was like, no, they won't.
Yeah. Nobody's going to get you.
Nope. I said, it ain't where you go, and you ain't going to change who you are, man.
Yeah. Wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah. And so Ian, but in reality, I mean, I owe him more in that regard of being my own person than anybody else, as far as, and that has, and musically that goes back to the same thing, but bands that, being in a band and everything wasn't, and that really came to light when Jason Gordon, from the one who showed up in my living room one day that I thought couldn't play drums, turned around and he told me, he said he wanted to get another band together. And I was like, and I was playing stand-up bass at the time. I'd gotten all involved in, I became a Reverend Horton Heat fanatic. And I was just like, I wanted to do everything rockabilly, I was totally, now this was in my living room. I was doing all this.
Right, you were in your...
I had no desire,
You were just doing a show for yourself.
I didn't need to go out and get acceptance anymore,
And you were enjoying some Reverend Horton Heat music.
Exactly.
And drinking whiskeys and having cigars.
I'm Travis picking and having a good time, and he's like, I want you to play stand-up bass in a band, but we're going to play like, they want to do like modern tunes, like weird shit. And I was just kind of like, oh, it might be, I don't know. Let me check that out.
Their own written tunes?
No, they wanted to do, and this is something that we always kind of, it wasn't something I was opposed to at the time. It's like, let's put together like a really weird like 80s band that plays really weird 80s music and make that the theme, and I bet we'll make a ton of money.
Right.
I bet,
like for the money, basically.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Right. And I thought, that would be funny.
Drinks and money. And
and there was a band at the time that I think were out of Chicago that were playing at the Loft all the time, and they were called the Plumbers, and they were playing 80s. I mean, they would play like anything though. Weird. I mean, it's like Funky Town.
They would play it all.
Yeah,
they were like the Lotus
they were
of
friggin' funny though, man. And if you've ever seen like the Spasmatics, it was kind of like that. They had like weird Beatles haircuts, and they
put on a whole show.
Yeah, it was funny as shit. And I mean, I loved them. They were totally entertaining.
And I liked 80s music.
Yeah,
so.
And they were great. They were actually great players, but that place was packed every time they played.
People loved it.
And I was like, I would do that. Yeah. That's kind of funny. It was just kind of an idea. Well, Jason decides he wants to kind of move in that, like, and I'm thinking, is that kind of what you're doing? Or
because there's already that band there.
Funny like that? And he gives me a list of songs. And I went, no.
Yeah.
No. As a matter of fact, I was like, just no, but I would be embarrassed to play this music ever.
Back to the drawing board.
Even in my living room, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't let my dog Pablo hear this. It was that bad. So he calls me and he's like, man, what's the deal? What's the deal? And I was like, no, dude, no. As a matter of fact, no. How about no? I got a better idea. No. Yeah. And so and he was adamant. And then it started really getting to me, I was like, what is his problem?
Yeah.
And I realized he needed to be in a band.
Right.
He needed to be, and he said that, he said, don't you miss being in front of people? Don't you miss getting that kind of attention? Don't you miss? And I was like,
no.
Well, I didn't, because I realized
he did.
Yeah. And I didn't want to, of course, demean him.
Right.
And I was like, Jason, and I became much softer at that point.
Yeah.
Because I never thought of it. I never thought about that as being something that, And here was the thing.
Right.
Jason saw me as a ticket to that. I was his first ticket to that in the first band. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that or anything.
Because you had the vision. And he saw you as the vision.
And so he was very upset when I wouldn't do this with him. Because now, to his credit, he went on and did it anyway.
Good.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Right. But I had to explain to him. I was like, no, it was never about that for me. I never wanted to be in front of people. It was never... and there was a level of anxiety that went along with playing that really... And I mean... I never
for
really,
you personally.
Yeah, I never really talked about it before, but there was all the time being in a band wasn't about getting
adulation from people, or
no, it wasn't. As a matter of fact, people that were a little too complimentary or they scared me a little bit because
they felt fake.
No, it was because I don't feel like I deserve that, and so I'm thinking if you think I'm so good when I know better than that, then there must be something wrong with you a little bit. Yeah. I don't know that, that.
Right. Yeah, and that's a self-doubt you have. Oh, God, you're so good. And it's the old, shucks.
I wouldn't have a club.
Thing,
I wouldn't be in a club that had me as a member.
Right.
That kind of thing. And I mean, but it wasn't, it was just a little too much, something. So there was people that I really respected that, yes, I wanted and it was my only other musicians really. Right. So it was kind of like, that was always more of a compliment to me, but just, no, not just to be out in front of playing in front of people, that wasn't my thing, and no, but it was his. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, being on stage for me was always kind of a struggle because, and it had a lot to do with the music too. Mm-hmm. I could play really pretty, beautiful music, and I do a lot of times. Yeah. But on stage, there was no way. Because I had a level of anxiety and a level that the only way it could come out was anger. Right. I couldn't go, I'm afraid. Right. They couldn't write a song like that.
Right. And and it's true because if you're really getting after it, you're not going to hear I wouldn't
say it was stage fright necessarily, but I didn't
maybe,
need to be out there.
I
didn't feel like I've got a gift I have to share, or my music's so great. Right. I wasn't that person that I was. So yes, I would get on stage and I was always very
working out,
stressed. It was stressful. So the music, that's what the music became. Because that's the only thing I could really express on stage anyway. So it was like I knew that. Those are the songs I was writing.
Natural Michael on stage right there.
You want to be in a band with me, it's going to be
a little bit.
It's going to be a little rough because I couldn't if I had written a really pretty song. Yeah. And then I got on stage to play it.
Would you have been able to sing it?
I would have been. I wouldn't even have been able to play it physically on the guitar because
your fingers would shake a little.
I would just
clench.
I would be clenched, tight. It's like now, and that's not to say that I couldn't get into the music and lose that that. Right. But I mean, I used to just back away from the mic sometimes to scream at the top of my lungs while I was playing because it wasn't, like,
get it out. Yeah.
This is awesome. It was just like, God, I want this to be over.
Right.
It's just, yeah. I think people,
I'm kind of like that. Like, I never played in a band, and I think it's mostly adrenaline. Like, the adrenaline alone, I wouldn't be able to play.
Yeah, some people really thrive on that, and it's like I'm a guilty fan of like watching The Voice and those kinds of shows. But one of the things that amazes me is that these people, when they tell their little background stories and stuff, I was made to play music. Nothing's ever going to stop me from playing music. Right. And and I have a gift and I have to show it to the world. Right. And then they go out there and they're friggin' awesome, you know, and they just blow it away. And I'm like,
and can do the slowest song and it sound like glass out there,
and I'm like, how
no
can
tremolo at all.
Yeah, and they're so in control of what they do, and everything. And I always felt completely out of control usually when I was on stage. It was just like and that's why, and that was another reason why I felt like the only way that I can not have everybody realize that I'm completely out of control is
to go hard.
is to practice until my fingers bleed.
Right.
Is the only
until it's just muscle memory while you're out there because you don't have time to think.
Right. And it's because it's like I better play at this level, and right now my hand is above my head. I better play at this level, be able to play at this level, because on stage I'm going to only be able to pull it off about here.
And now it's to his chin.
Yeah, exactly. Or actually it should be down lower.
Well, but it's yeah, exactly. So, I want to sound good, so I have to sound great.
Yeah, but it's the there was always this weird manicness to being in a band and putting yourself out there like that. And I given a lot of credit to that of course that I got to practice. And I can remember telling people, it was so funny, and it was part of my personality at that time, but it was like people would, hey, you want to come over and watch football? I'd like, why don't you put down that football and play your freaking guitar, dumbass? Maybe you won't suck.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was always, I was very, it was, I used to get on people's ass all the time, and I could be kind of an asshole about stuff like that.
But that's what we love about you.
I don't have, but luckily I don't have that, that drive in that direction anymore. But I find myself to play more disciplined now than I probably ever did, and I'm still. It's just I'll still sit down with a scale or something, and drive people absolutely insane. Everybody in the house.
That does drive people insane, guys. Yeah. I'm telling you right now.
Doing that intricate kind of, I don't know. It's maybe just part of, but I get off on it.
Yeah,
I get
you have to do
tedious, weird shit like that.
Like the G run is something I've been working on for years now.
Oh yeah,
the G run because you can play it so many different ways.
That's right.
And if you pull it off, it sounds really cool. Mm-hmm. And but listening to someone play the G run over and over again, maybe not so much fun.
Not so much. No. Exactly. So yeah, that's but it's a good place to be, musically now. And for a while there, and like I said, after what happened with Billy, I really did put it away. Yeah. Because I associated the music with drugs and people's lives being destroyed, and with the death of my friend and
murder. And
it's such a horrible and a horrible community it had created, and for some reason music, it was thrown out the baby with the bathwater scenario. Music became the baby that got thrown out with the bathwater in that respect, and that was unfortunate for a long time. And my resurgence into interest in the guitar, something always had to spark an interest to challenge me.
Yeah.
And this time around, it was rockabilly and Merle Travis and Danny Gatton and all this stuff. So all of a sudden, I wanted to learn how to Travis pick, hybrid.
Right.
And that was the most hardest foreign thing in my life. So it resurged this whole guitar thing. Right. And now I play. I mean, that's what I'm into all the time now.
That's what you practice with when you play.
Yeah. I mean, totally. I mean, gosh, and I've gotten and that's been for years now. I mean, that's kind of so changed playing for me completely differently. And it's just here recently, like you saw that crazy YouTube video where I'm just going nuts on. Yeah. I just recently
you were shredding. You were shredding.
Yeah, and I do this sometimes because it's like. Sometimes I have to record myself and put it in public just to remind myself how absolutely stupid things sound sometimes.
Nah, but I get what you're saying.
It's like, I don't know, it's good therapy in a way because I don't want to, but I'm like, I'm just going to.
It's good for you to get
I force myself to. I just go, do it. Just throw it out there.
Here it is, yeah.
I just do
With these podcasts, I have them out there, and if anybody wants to say a crappy thing, they can just say it. Yeah. And that's pretty strange sometimes, you gotta, shake it off and not let it hurt your feelings. Don't even look at it sometimes.
No, it's that's, I guess, the little part of me that needs me to remind, when you're sitting in your basement and you play by yourself all the time, it's like, man, I'm good.
I'm getting good.
Put it on YouTube real quick. Throw it on YouTube real quick.
And then watch it. And then.
Now, everybody still's real cool. I mean, I've never had anybody say anything bad.
I think everybody's mostly everyone's nice,
But when you listen back to yourself and you know that everybody's listening to it too, you go, oh boy, you need to practice this, you need to practice that, you need to practice that, you need to practice that.
But there you go.
Yeah, it's a good way of getting past all that stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty much, that's where it is now.
Yeah.
And my daughter's 3rd birthday is next Saturday.
So you've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yeah, there'll be 2. She'll be 2 this year. So the 3-year-old's getting her first solid body electric guitar.
Oh, cool.
And it's a hot pink Jackson.
Oh, nice.
I had to take her back to the 80s hairband. Oh, yeah. It's kid size.
Oh, it's even a quarter size?
Oh, it's freaking amazing.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
They make a guitar called a Minion. And it's this tiny little guitar. And here I was, and I saw this thing, and I was like, and I just recently, I just like distanced myself from a lot of the music that I played in the past and stuff because it was like we were a funk metal band, you know. God, how cliche is that? And I started out cutting my teeth on like White Snake and Dokken and Scorpions and and Iron Maiden and Megadeth and all that shit. And so it's like that's not cool anymore. And for a long time, even playing a guitar solo wasn't cool anymore. So I kind of distanced myself from all that kind of stuff. Now I'm full on back into like I want to show my metal scars. Yeah. You're
really good. You should do that. I'm just like really something.
Well, and now that I've kind of gotten past, I've gotten into another genre of music. I'm like, I go and again something sparks my interest or something. And like recently, I heard this Kirk. God, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a real popular dude on YouTube, and he's kind of a metalhead dude, but amazing player. And I was like, man, that guy's amazing. And then Buckethead, dude, Buckethead is freaking amazing.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was like, so I've gotten interested in all these shredder guitar player dudes that have kind of transcended that metal hairband thing. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, man,
it's really cool. I mean, I like it when I hear something that's completely different. Yeah. But it all sounds the same in some way or another. But man, when you can hear this difference in something, it's like, what is that? Let's look that. And now we have so many possibilities and looking at it with listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much crap on YouTube. It's amazing.
There's not enough time in the day, really, but
no. And there's so many amazing players. So that's kind of where now I'm kind of back to that. So I think the baby needs Nova needs a little Jackson. Mm-hmm. That's what I started out with, some kind of a Charvel or a Jackson or some hair metal band guitar. And I was just like, oh, that's gonna be so cute. And she, it's something.
She can bang it up a little, and it's okay.
It won't matter. Yeah, it won't matter. Yeah. But this kid stands in front of the TV and she has a little acoustic and just and plays and sings. Good. Yeah,
that's good. Fletcher used to do that. That's my son's name is Fletcher.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he used to do that, and now he's playing like in the symphony for Wichita Youth Symphony, and
that's cool.
It's really cool.
And I would love to see my kids, be musical, and I think that they have and be musical and have their dad
be there with
encourage them and as opposed to go through the.
And you have to. I tell you what, you have to practice in order to be good at anything, and kids don't want to always do that and take the time, so you have to somehow make it fun.
Kids don't get
or just demand it, but it helps when you're just having fun and but it's there's not a day that doesn't go by that we're not doing music, discussing it,
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And that's the household I want to have too.
And he'll appreciate it someday.
Yeah. Well, it's just you just pray, as a new parent, you don't these kids, you don't know what their interests are yet or anything, and you want to support them in anything they want to do. But at the same time, I'm going, oh my God, I hope
they like cool things.
I hope she's not into ping pong, or exactly. I hope she doesn't play softball, because these are things that I'm like, I can't help you. I'm like, all I can do is go, softball. All right,
I'll bring the chair.
I'll go to the game. What else can I do?
Exactly.
No pointers there, but so I'm just hoping that it's something that I can be involved in their lives.
You never know.
With, so and if it's not, well. You
tried.
You do what you do.
And you were there.
Yeah. You gotta do whatever you can do. That's it.
All right. And now I'm gonna give you a little taste of the band Diesel Crutch Michael was in with a song called Reason for Force.
It makes it even worse. Now you're caught up in a satanic
nice. So, Michael, it's been fun talking to you. And I was wondering if there's any kind of thing that you wanted to say or add, or just let people know, or what you just derived from all your experiences and what you've told me so far.
Yeah. The biggest thing I can think of, when we talked about all these things and kind of reminiscing about all these people that influenced my life, and what it was, a really unique opportunity that all of us had to have, like a 10-year vacation, really. Right. It was kind of like a total recess in the work of life, to be local rock stars.
Right.
And that was just, you can't replace it with anything. And it was totally not possible without all of the people that were involved. And the fact that we didn't make it,
right? Like,
the fact that we
never got famous,
never got that big record contract that you wanted is okay.
Right.
Because I think me and Mike Santiago had the conversation one time. He's like, it's a good thing we never made it, because we'd probably both be dead.
Oh, wow.
I think he's right.
Yeah.
I think we would.
I could see that
Definitely.
too.
Yeah, if I would have had money and fame and stuff at that age,
right.
Oh, I would be so dead.
Right, you would have just totally partied it into oblivion.
Totally. Would have probably embarrassed my whole family.
Yeah.
I'd probably be like, would have been real bad.
Like, you'd be the one that made it, and now you're broke and back and living with your mom in the basement or something like that.
Dead. No, I think dead.
Worse.
I'm pretty sure it'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was an interesting point, because, the thing is that we had all this fun, and it was so, and these relationships, these people, was what was the most important thing. What has been the most fun to talk to you about, is all these people that I owe a huge debt of gratitude to, because they gave me this really rare opportunity to live this little part of my life that I think was really special to all of us, that were involved. Right. And I can't say thank you enough for those people, and the idea that we didn't make it again, it's not that bad.
No.
Because
failure is sometimes the best way to learn anything,
We I know we all still have our musical ventures and so forth, but more importantly, people have gone on to have amazing lives. I have 2 amazing kids. You know? Mike Santiago has an amazing wife named Sandal J. Jr., I call her. And they have this great life. They're in Texas. Zach Nicholson, the bass player from my band, my first band, Love and Rotation, is now a missionary. He is a messenger of God.
Where at?
The USSR.
Really?
Yeah, man, he goes all over the place. Yeah, he goes
now he's
Europe
right now
and
in
the Eastern
Russia?
Bloc, and I don't know that he's in there right now. Actually, I still think he lives here in Wichita, but they go do these missions.
Okay.
What an interesting life. And his brother, Gabe Nicholson, as well, which I didn't talk about Gabe, but he is also just a interesting person. And he does this too. I mean, it's just crazy how people's lives have just, gone. Sean lives in Maui and has a beautiful family and still jams,
Cool.
That guy will show up on Facebook wearing a Psycho Love Tribe t-shirt once.
Nice. That's always
really cool stuff, And I mean, so all these people, and and I know that several of the Dead O guys are still doing it, man. They're still out there kicking it, and
and is it Miles and Joel? What do they do?
Yeah, Miles and Joel are in a band, and I'm not sure what they're calling the band right now. They may have gone back to Dead Orchestra.
Right.
Actually.
I'm
not sure.
Cool.
Grant's got a career now and a grandbaby.
Wow.
I know, right? I know, right?
I see Justin on Facebook once in a while.
He's jamming. Mm-hmm. I know he's got a band together. I've never been able to catch their act, but I know he's kicking it. And then, there's there's the ones that didn't make it also, which, Billy, of course, we talked about, and Randy, and Ronnie True, and Vernon Tolbert. I didn't bring up Vernon.
Right.
He worked kind of security for us. And there was people that I didn't bring up that, that were behind the scenes as well. Like Chris Howell was such an important part of what we did, and Jeff Corbett running sound, and
he's still running around. I see him around.
Oh God, Jeff's got a hell of a deal going, and he runs sound for all kinds of people.
Lots
he
of
does
people,
some big stuff,
mm-hmm.
and so he's done really great. And Neil McCarty let me write songs in his basement. I'll never forget that. I mean, I couldn't have done it without him. I mean, these are all these people were so instrumental, in every band that we played with. And my mom, good God, that woman is a saint, literally.
Literally.
Well, she put up with my dad.
There you go.
And I mean,
a traveling musician. And
yeah,
making it work. Yeah. She got him to settle down though and come to Wichita when those babies got old enough to go to school or whatever.
No, I have such a great appreciation for my parents because I was one of the few people that I knew that had two parents that were together. You know, I mean, most people I went to school with and stuff.
That's a real something.
It is, you know, and I think it was amazing, and I know it took a lot of work, and so I can't thank them enough, especially my mom, because my dad was not the easiest person to get along with.
Doesn't sound like it.
But I thank him too. You know, I mean, still, it's just
it's all there.
Oh yeah, man. And so to all of those people, and I mean I guess the whole thing is no matter what you're doing, it's not insignificant, you know?
Right.
And it's,
and the people that have made it to come back and support, you know, did you ever have anyone support you that was like huge. Who you thought were famous or had made it and they still took the time for you and that's always a blessing, you know, and to pump up what you're doing.
And that's, you know, when you talked about when we very first started the interview, you brought up Steve I. He's a great... No, I'm. You know, like I said, I never tried to play like Steve or anything, but yeah, I mean, he's like
a hero.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
But that guy took the time to talk to me, you know, and that meant more to me than anything. You know, really I was like, and there's other people too, you know, like Ian Astbury from the Cult.
Wow, yeah.
Was encouraging, you know, and just to hear a little bit about your story and say, yeah, man, keep playing, you know, keep doing it, you know, or Dave Mustaine from Megadeth gave me some really nice words of advice one time, you know, and it's like, but there was also people that were maybe a little less known, like all the guys from this band, the Necromantics. I don't know if you're familiar with them. But
I've heard of it.
Yeah. And Troy Destroy Russell, I can't say enough. Troy Destroy Russell still talks to me all the time on Facebook. We still talk guitar. And he was in the Resurrects and in the Necromantics. And that guy has never not once answered a message. Same with Jim Heath from Reverend Horton Heat. That guy, you know, I could send him an email. He'll respond every time. And
that's pretty amazing because these are busy people and probably get approached a lot by people.
Yeah, I mean, but these are real people that actually took the time to be encouraging. The band 2 Cents, which they had a big hit. They had one hit.
One hit.
Yeah, one hit. And I got to meet them through a mutual friend of ours. And we talked about Korn. Yeah, well, they were opening for Korn.
Oh, wow.
And I'd never seen Korn. And here it was just about 5-6 years ago. It was at the Cotillion. And
oh, wow.
They brought me on the bus, and Shane and Monkey from Korn. It was Monkey. Anyway, 2 guitar players got on that bus, and I got to play Johnny Cash with those dudes.
You're kidding.
We sat there and played Folsom Prison Blues on acoustic guitars with the Korn guys. And I told my friends, like, man, I've got to play acoustic guitar with the Korn dudes last night. And they were like, I didn't know you could tune an acoustic guitar down to G.
It's like, damn.
No, that's harsh. But they let me sit on the stage on the drum riser and watch the show from back there.
Right on.
I mean, so there's been some people that have done some amazing things, you know, that you just can't thank enough. But all the people in all the bands that I was in, and I mean, I want them to know that, you know, without them, and I've been told by a few of them a few times that, you know, hey, without you, I never could have lived this little dream, you know.
Right.
And I always thought, hey, yeah, damn right you could. No, I'm just kidding. I was always like, no, but
that sounds like
it's mutual. It's very mutual, and it's not insignificant. And I learned that from Shane's story, you know.
Right.
Full circle, man, because, you know, I was like, totally. It's like this does mean something to people, and those people mean something to me. So, if I can just say.
Yes, sir.
Just say to Jason Gordon, Robbie Kreider, Billy Graves, Randy Bannon, and Kobe Cady, Sean Robinson, Tony Fortner, Zach Nicholson, Chad Stubbs, Mike Santiago, Ian Ottaway, and Brad Robinson as well. Thank you guys, all you guys.
Wow. I
love you. And it was a really special time.
Yeah.
And keep it going, man.
Right.
And thank you, Lori. This has been a great experience for me, and this has been a lot of fun. And I think what you're doing is awesome. And I mean, the more, and you know, you said, man, you'd like to have Joel Hesser on sometime. I'm gonna get him for you.
Thank you. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
I want to hear that one too.
Me too. A lot of people do, and I thank you so much for coming. And I think you're an inspiration to so many people. And you know, I love you, man.
Love you too, man. Keep it going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Drive safe out there.
And all you bitches.
Oh, yeah. You bitches.
And all you bitches.
You didn't help.
You didn't do a damn thing.
You didn't do a damn thing. the Catch a Pocket podcast is brought to you by me, because I just like to make podcasts, so I hope y'all enjoy it. If you want to write us, we're at catchapocket@gmail.com. You can find us on anywhere you can find a podcast, pretty much, except for iHeartRadio, and I'm coming for you next, buddy. Thanks for listening, and thanks a lot to Michael Lacey for being such a famous sport on this. You did a great job, and thank you for coming in. And thank y'all for listening. Love you. I hope y'all catch a pocket you can be proud of. Good night.
I had a dream. I went to the garage and I lifted a board, and there was kittens. Striped ones and white ones. I went to the garage and I lifted a board, and there was kittens. Striped ones and white ones. I went to the garage and I lifted a board, and there were kittens, striped ones and white ones. Sons of bitches. Go, Dad, go. Go, Dad, go. We're too much. Your old man's gonna get credit for that one.